The hallways of Horizon Technologies always felt different at night. During the day, they buzzed with the energy of hurried footsteps, important conversations, and the steady hum of success. But after 10 p.m., when Maria Gonzalez pushed her cleaning cart through those same hallways, the building transformed into something else entirely, a quiet, empty palace that seemed to hold its breath until morning. Maria preferred the night shift. The pay was slightly better, and more importantly, it meant she could spend her days with Sophia, her 12-year-old daughter. Tonight, like most nights, Maria moved methodically through the executive floor, emptying trash bins filled with coffee cups and meeting notes that probably contained million-dollar ideas she would never understand. 2 more hours, she whispered to herself, checking the small watch she wore, a gift from her late mother. The face was scratched and the band had been replaced 3 times, but it kept perfect time. Just like Sophia did when she played, Maria smiled at the thought of her daughter. This morning she had watched Sophia practice on their second-hand keyboard, the one they'd found at a yard sale 3 summers ago. The keys were slightly yellowed and 5 of them stuck if you pressed too hard, but Sophia played as if it were a concert grand piano. Her small fingers danced across those imperfect keys, creating music that seemed impossible from such a humble instrument. "Mom, listen to this part," Sophia had said, her eyes bright with excitement. "I figured it out just by listening to the recording Mrs. Lee played at school." Maria had stood in their tiny kitchen, coffee cup in hand, watching in amazement as her daughter played a piece that sounded vaguely classical, something Maria recognized but couldn't name. The pride she felt in that moment almost made her forget about the past due notice for their electricity bill sitting on the counter, or the fact that Sophia's school shoes were splitting at the seams. Now, as Maria wiped down the gleaming conference table in the main boardroom, she wondered what her daughter was dreaming about. Probably music. Always music. Since Sophia was 5 years old, she had been drawn to any instrument she could get her hands on. At school, her music teacher, Mrs. Lee, had taken a special interest in Sophia, letting her stay after class to practice on the school's piano. "Your daughter has a gift," Mrs. Lee had told Maria during their last parent-teacher meeting. "She needs proper lessons, a good instrument. With the right training, she could apply for the Young Artist program at the Riverside Music Academy." Maria had nodded and smiled, not wanting to explain that private lessons cost more per hour than she made in 3, or that the application fee for the Riverside Music Academy was equivalent to half a month's rent. The cleaning cart squeaked slightly as Maria pushed it toward the elevator. Next stop, the main lobby. It was her favorite part of the building, not because it was easier to clean, the marble floors actually required special attention, but because of what waited for her there. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing the vast, impressive entrance to Horizon Technologies. During business hours, this space welcomed important clients and potential investors with its soaring ceilings, modern art installations, and the unmistakable aura of success. Now, in the midnight quiet, it belonged to Maria, and to the piano. It sat in the corner of the lobby, a magnificent grand piano made of polished black wood that gleamed even in the dim night lighting. Maria had overheard from the day staff that it had been the CEO's idea to put it there. Mr. Thornton apparently believed that it added cultural refinement to the space. Most days it sat untouched, a beautiful prop in the carefully designed set of corporate prosperity. Maria glanced at her watch again. She was 15 minutes ahead of schedule, 15 minutes she could borrow. She parked her cart near the security desk. The night guard, Ben, was doing his rounds on the upper floors. He wouldn't be back for at least 20 minutes. Maria walked slowly toward the piano, her footsteps echoing slightly on the marble floor. When she reached it, she ran her fingertips lightly across the closed lid. Even after hours of cleaning bathroom counters and emptying trash cans, her hands never felt dirty when she touched this piano. This ritual, these stolen moments at the instrument, had become the brightest part of her workday. Maria carefully lifted the fallboard that covered the keys. They gleamed up at her, perfect white and black rectangles waiting patiently for someone who knew how to bring them to life. Maria glanced around once more, then sat on the bench. She didn't play, not really. Not like Sophia could. But Maria remembered enough from her childhood lessons to pick out simple melodies. Before life had gotten complicated, before she had become a single mother at 22, Before she had dropped out of community college to work 2 jobs, Maria had played the piano at her grandmother's house every Sunday afternoon. She placed her hands on the keys and began to play a simple lullaby, the one she used to sing to Sophia when she was a baby. The notes floated into the empty lobby, a gentle sound that seemed to make the vast space feel smaller, warmer somehow. As she played, Maria's mind wandered to earlier times. She remembered her grandmother's hands guiding hers over much more humble keys, teaching her the simple joy of making music. She thought about how different her life might have been if she'd been able to continue those lessons. If circumstances hadn't led her down a different path. "You play beautifully." The voice startled Maria so badly that she stood up, nearly knocking over the piano bench. A woman stood a few feet away, wearing an elegant blue dress that certainly didn't belong on the night shift. Her gray-streaked hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she carried a leather portfolio that probably cost more than Maria's monthly rent. "I'm sorry," Maria stammered, quickly closing the piano. I shouldn't have." "No, please," the woman said, holding up a hand. "Don't apologize. I was working late and heard the music. It was lovely." Maria recognized her now. Patricia Winters, the company's chief financial officer. Maria had cleaned her office hundreds of times but had never actually spoken to her. "Thank you, but I was just fooling around," Maria said, straightening her uniform. "I should get back to work." Patricia tilted her head slightly. "You know, my grandfather always said you can tell a lot about someone by the way they approach a piano, even if they just play a few notes." Maria wasn't sure how to respond. She was acutely aware of the contrast between them. Patricia in her designer clothes, Maria in her gray cleaning uniform, with the company logo stitched above the pocket. "Do you play often?" Patricia asked. "No," Maria replied. "Not really. My daughter is the musician. She's 12 and already better than I ever was." Something in Patricia's expression softened. "You have a daughter who plays? That's wonderful. Music education is so important." Maria nodded, not wanting to explain the complicated reality that Sophia's music education consisted of YouTube tutorials, borrowed time on the school piano, and that second-hand keyboard with the sticky keys. "She loves it," Maria said simply. "She plays by ear mostly." "Picks things up so quickly," Patricia smiled. "That's a rare gift. Has she had formal training?" The question wasn't asked unkindly, but it still stung. Maria looked down at her hands that cleaned and scrubbed and sanitized but could no longer afford to provide what her daughter needed most. "Not yet," Maria said. "We're saving up for lessons." An awkward silence fell between them. Maria knew she should excuse herself, get back to her cart, continue her rounds. But something in Patricia's thoughtful expression kept her rooted to the spot. "You know," Patricia finally said, "Horizon has this annual charity event coming up next week. The spring gala, it's quite a big deal. All the executives attend, plus clients, partners, potential investors." She paused. "Mr. Thornton always makes it a point to do something unexpected to encourage donations. Last year he jumped into the fountain outside wearing his $1,000 suit after we reached our fundraising goal." Maria smiled politely, unsure why she was being told this. "The gala will be held here in the lobby," Patricia continued, "and that piano will be at the center of it all. Mr. Thornton mentioned wanting to incorporate it somehow this year." The elevator chimed, and both women turned to see Ben, the security guard, stepping out. He looked surprised to see them, particularly to see Maria conversing with an executive. "Everything okay here?" he asked. "Perfectly fine, Ben," Patricia said with a warm smile. "Just having a chat about the upcoming gala." Ben nodded and made his way to the security desk, though Maria could feel him watching them curiously. "I should really get back to work," Maria said quietly. "Of course." Patricia nodded. "But Maria," she paused. "That is your name, right? I've seen it on your badge." "Yes, ma'am." "Maria, sometimes opportunities appear in unexpected places. Keep your eyes open at that gala." With that cryptic statement, Patricia smiled once more and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking purposefully on the marble floor. Maria stood there for a moment, confused by the entire interaction. What had Patricia meant about opportunities, and why would it matter to a night janitor what happened at some fancy charity event? She shook her head and returned to her cart. There were still floors to clean, trash to collect, and surfaces to sanitize. In just a few hours she would head home, Wake Sophia for school, make breakfast, catch a few hours of sleep, and then help with homework before returning to Horizon for another night shift. That was her reality, not galas or opportunities, or pianos in spotlighted corners. Yet as Maria pushed her cart toward the bathrooms, she found herself wondering what it might be like to attend such an event, to stand in this lobby not as someone who cleaned it, but as someone who belonged there, to watch Sophia play on that magnificent piano instead of a second-hand keyboard with sticky keys. The thought was like a distant star, beautiful to look at, but impossibly far away, or so she thought. For the next week, Maria couldn't stop thinking about her strange encounter with Patricia Winters. The CFO's words echoed in her mind as she mopped floors and wiped down surfaces. Sometimes opportunities appear in unexpected places. What had she meant? Maria had cleaned the building long enough to know that executives rarely noticed the cleaning staff, let alone stop to chat with them about music and charity galas. On Friday morning, after dropping Sophia at school, Maria found a large cream-colored envelope in their mailbox. Inside was an elegant invitation to the Horizon Technologies Spring Charity Gala, along with a handwritten note on expensive stationery. The cleaning staff are welcome to attend the event after their shift on Saturday. Consider it a thank you for keeping our spaces beautiful all year. Patricia Winters, CFO. Maria sat at their small kitchen table, staring at the invitation. The gala was scheduled for tomorrow night, the same night as her regular shift. According to the invitation, the event would begin at 7 p.m., which meant it would still be going when she arrived for her 10 p.m. shift. She traced her finger over the embossed lettering on the invitation. The theme was Harmony for Humanity, with proceeds going to fund music programs in underserved schools. The irony wasn't lost on Maria. Her own daughter, with all her natural talent, couldn't afford proper lessons, while these wealthy executives would spend thousands on dinner tickets to feel good about supporting music education. Still, something tugged at her. What if Patricia had been serious? What if there was some opportunity hiding in this event? Mom, what's that? Sophia's voice broke through her thoughts. Maria turned to see her daughter standing in the doorway, home early from school for a teacher workday. It's nothing, mija, just something from work. Maria tried to slide the invitation back into its envelope, but Sophia was too quick. Harmony for Humanity Spring Gala, Sophia read aloud, her eyes widening. Mom, this is at your work? With the big piano in the lobby? Maria nodded. Yes, but it's not for us. I'll be cleaning, not attending. Sophia's eyes sparkled with curiosity. But it says the cleaning staff can attend. And look, it's for music programs. Could we go, please? Maria looked at her daughter's hopeful face and felt her resolve weakening. It's a fancy event, Sophia. Everyone will be dressed up. We don't have clothes for something like this. I can wear my Christmas dress from Tia Carmen, and you have that nice blue dress you wore to Cousin Miguel's wedding. Sophia was already planning, her mind racing ahead. Will they have musicians there? Will anyone play the piano? Maria couldn't help but smile at her daughter's enthusiasm. I don't know, mija, maybe. Can we go? Please, Mom? I've never been to a real gala before. How could she say no to that face? Besides, there was something about Patricia's words that still nagged at her. All right, Maria finally said, but we'll have to be careful. I'll still need to do my job afterward. Sophia's squeal of delight was worth any potential awkwardness they might face. The next evening, Maria found herself standing outside the main entrance of Horizon Technologies, holding Sophia's hand. They were both dressed in their best clothes, Sophia in her red Christmas dress with her hair carefully braided, and Maria in the blue dress she'd worn only twice before. She'd spent her precious few hours of sleep that day hand-washing and ironing both outfits. You look beautiful, Mom, Sophia said, squeezing her hand. Maria smiled down at her daughter. So do you, Miga. Remember, we're just going to watch for a little while. Then you'll sit in the break room and do your homework while I work, okay? Sophia nodded solemnly. I promise. They walked through the revolving doors into a transformed space. Maria barely recognized the lobby she cleaned every night. Tiny lights twinkled from the ceiling, giving the impression of stars. Round tables covered in white cloth dotted the floor, each with an elegant centerpiece of white roses and blue hydrangeas. A small orchestra played softly in one corner, and waiters in black and white carried trays of tiny food and sparkling drinks. And there, in its usual place but now surrounded by spotlights, sat the grand piano. Wow, Sophia whispered, her eyes wide. It's like a fairy tale. Maria felt immediately out of place. The room was filled with people in expensive clothes, laughing and chatting as if they belonged there, which of course they did. She recognized many of the faces, executives she'd seen in photographs on the company website, clients whose names she'd spotted on meeting room schedules, even a few local celebrities. Maybe this wasn't a good idea, Maria murmured, but Sophia was already pulling her further into the room. Look, Mom, they have little cakes. Sophia pointed to a dessert table laden with tiny, elegant pastries. Before Maria could respond, she heard a familiar voice. Maria, you came. Patricia Winters approached them, resplendent in a deep purple gown. And who is this young lady? This is my daughter Sophia, Maria said, feeling strangely formal. Sophia, this is Ms. Winters. She works here. I'm the person who counts all the money, Patricia said with a wink to Sophia. It's wonderful to meet you. Your mother tells me you're quite the pianist, Sophia blushed. I'm learning. I don't have a teacher yet, but Mom says maybe someday. Patricia smiled warmly. Well, we have a beautiful piano right here. Perhaps you'll get a chance to play it tonight. Sophia's eyes grew even wider. Really? Could I? Well, I can't promise anything, but you never know what might happen at these events. Patricia turned to Maria. Richard, Mr. Thornton, our CEO, always likes to make these galas memorable. He has something planned for tonight involving the piano. I'm not sure what it is, but knowing Richard, it will be unexpected. As if summoned by his name, a tall man with silver hair and a charismatic smile appeared at Patricia's side. Patty, they're asking for us to start the speeches soon. He noticed Maria and Sophia and extended his hand. Richard Thornton. I don't believe we've met. Patricia quickly explained who they were. Maria braced herself for dismissal. But to her surprise, Mr. Thornton seemed genuinely pleased. Wonderful to have you both here, he said. Any friend of Patty's is a friend of mine. Are you enjoying yourselves? It's the most beautiful party I've ever seen, Sophia said honestly. Richard laughed. High praise indeed. I hope you'll stay for the main event. I've got a little surprise planned. With that, he and Patricia excused themselves to prepare for the speeches. Maria and Sophia found a spot near the back of the room where they could observe without being in the way. A waiter offered them glasses of sparkling cider, which Sophia accepted with such grown-up seriousness that Maria had to hide a smile. After about 20 minutes of mingling, Richard Thornton took to the small stage that had been set up near the piano. He tapped a microphone and the room gradually fell silent. Friends, colleagues, esteemed guests, he began, his voice filling the space effortlessly. Thank you for joining us tonight for our annual Spring Charity Gala. This year's theme, Harmony for Humanity, is particularly close to my heart. He spoke about the importance of music education, how it had shaped his own childhood, and how studies showed it improved academic performance across all subjects. Maria found herself nodding along, thinking of how naturally music came to Sophia. As you know, each year I like to do something a bit unconventional to encourage your generosity, Richard continued with a mischievous smile. Last year I ended up rather wet. The crowd laughed, obviously remembering his fountain dive. This year, I thought we'd try something different. He walked over to the grand piano and rested his hand on its shining surface. Music connects us all. It transcends language, culture, and circumstance. But sometimes we're afraid to make music because we fear judgment. The room grew quiet, everyone curious about where this was going. So tonight, I have a challenge. Richard's smile widened. I'll donate $10,000 to tonight's cause for anyone brave enough to come up and play just one note on this piano. A murmur ran through the crowd. People looked at each other, confused. Was that all? Just one note? That's right, Richard confirmed, clearly enjoying their reaction. One note. That's all. Come up, play a single key, and I'll write a check for $10,000 right now. Any volunteers? The room fell strangely silent. Maria looked around, puzzled. It seemed like such a simple challenge, yet no one was moving. Why would people hesitate to earn such a large donation with so little effort? Maria nodded, equally baffled by the room's hesitation. Richard waited another moment, then shrugged dramatically. Well, if there are no takers, perhaps I'll just have to... I'll do it. The voice rang out clearly from the back of the room. It took Maria a second to realize it was Sophia who had spoken. All heads turned toward them. Sophia stood straight, her chin lifted with a confidence Maria had only seen when she played music. Richard's eyebrows rose in surprise, but his smile grew even wider.
Wonderful.
We have a volunteer. Come on up, young lady. Sophia looked up at Maria, suddenly uncertain. Maria squeezed her hand and nodded encouragingly. Go ahead, Mia. It's for a good cause. Sophia made her way through the crowd, which parted to let her pass. As she approached the piano, Richard gestured grandly, like a showman presenting his star performer. And what's your name? He asked, holding the microphone down to her level. Sofia Gonzalez, she replied, her voice smaller now that all eyes were on her. Well, Sofia Gonzalez, you are about to earn $10,000 for music education with just one finger. Are you ready? Sophia nodded, standing before the magnificent piano, looking suddenly tiny in her Christmas dress. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard announced, let's have a round of applause for young Sophia, the bravest person in the room tonight. The crowd applauded politely. From her spot at the back, Maria felt a surge of pride so strong it nearly brought tears to her eyes. That was her daughter up there, her Sophia, standing confidently in a room full of people who made more money in a month than Maria made in a year. Sophia approached the piano bench and sat down carefully. The room fell completely silent as everyone watched the little girl in the red dress prepare to play her single note. Sophia placed her hands in her lap, took a deep breath, and looked out at the crowd. Her eyes found Maria's, and Maria gave her an encouraging nod. Then Sophia turned back to the piano, lifted her right hand, and positioned her finger over a key. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Time seemed to slow down as Sophia sat at the grand piano, her small figure dwarfed by the magnificent instrument. From across the room, Maria held her breath. A mixture of pride and worry twisted in her chest as she watched her daughter prepare to play a single note that would earn a $10,000 donation. The crowd waited in anticipation. Glasses paused halfway to lips, conversation suspended mid-sentence. Even the waiters had stopped their rounds to watch. Sophia positioned her finger over a key, hesitated, then looked up at Richard Thornton, who stood beside the piano with an encouraging smile. Mr. Thornton, Sophia said, her voice surprisingly steady for a 12-year-old addressing a CEO in front of hundreds of people. Before I play my note, can I ask you something? A ripple of gentle laughter moved through the audience. Richard leaned down slightly, his expression amused. Of course, young lady. What would you like to know? The money will help kids learn music, right? That's right, Richard confirmed. It will fund instruments and lessons for children who otherwise couldn't afford them. Sophia nodded thoughtfully. Children like me, she said quietly, though the microphone picked up her words and carried them through the silent room. Richard's smile faltered slightly. He glanced over at Patricia, who was watching with an unreadable expression. Well, Sophia continued, if one note is worth $10,000, I was wondering, what would happen if I played more than one note? The audience stirred. Richard blinked, clearly not expecting this question. He recovered quickly, his charismatic smile returning. The challenge was for one note, Sophia. That's all that's required. Sophia looked down at the keys, then back up at him. But would it help more children if I played more? A strange tension filled the room. Maria wanted to step forward to tell Sophia it was okay, that she didn't need to push, but something kept her rooted to her spot, watching her daughter find her voice in front of all these powerful people. Richard chuckled, though it sounded slightly forced. You drive a hard bargain for someone so young. Tell you what, you play your one note as agreed and we'll discuss what comes next afterward. Deal? Sophia nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. She turned back to the piano, adjusted her position on the bench, and straightened her back just like she did at home when she was about to play something important. Maria saw the change in her daughter's posture and felt a flutter of recognition. That wasn't Sophia's "I'm going to press one key" posture. That was her performance posture. Sophia lifted her right hand. Her fingers curved just so, and for a brief moment, Maria thought she might actually follow the rules and play just one note. Then Sophia's hand descended, and what happened next caused everyone in the room to freeze. Instead of a single note ringing out, Sophia's fingers danced across the keys with practiced precision. The opening notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major filled the space, flowing like water, each note connecting seamlessly to the next. Maria's hand flew to her mouth. She recognized the piece immediately. It was the same one Sophia had been teaching herself for weeks, listening to recordings on their old laptop and practicing on their second-hand keyboard with the sticky keys. Except now, on this perfect instrument in this perfect acoustic space, it sounded like it was meant to be heard. Full and rich and heartbreakingly beautiful. The crowd's reaction transformed from shock to awe. Some people gasped. Others simply stared, mouths slightly open. A few exchanged glances as if to confirm they were all experiencing the same unexpected moment. Richard Thornton stood beside the piano, completely still, his expression a mixture of disbelief and wonder. Patricia had moved closer, her hand pressed against her heart. For her part, Sophia seemed lost in the music, her eyes half closed as her small hands moved with confidence across the keyboard. She played with the emotional maturity of someone 3 times her age, bringing out nuances in the piece that spoke of both joy and longing. Maria felt tears sliding down her cheeks. How many nights had she heard these same notes through their thin apartment walls as Sophia practiced on that inadequate keyboard? How many times had she wished she could give her daughter the instrument she deserved? The piece lasted just over 4 minutes, though it seemed both longer and shorter somehow, a moment outside of time. When Sophia played the final notes, letting them fade gently into silence, the room remained absolutely still. Then, like a dam breaking, applause erupted. People stood from their tables, clapping and cheering. Some wiped away tears. Others shook their heads in amazement. Sophia looked up, seeming surprised by the reaction, as if she'd forgotten where she was and who was listening. Her eyes found Maria's across the room, and she smiled, a small, uncertain smile that asked, "Did I do okay, Mom?" Maria nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat, hoping her daughter could see the pride and love shining through her tears. Richard Thornton seemed at a loss for words for the first time that evening. He took a moment to compose himself before speaking into the microphone again. "Well," he said, his voice slightly rough with emotion, "I think we can all agree that was considerably more than 1 note." The audience laughed, the sound warm and appreciative. Richard looked down at Sophia with new respect in his eyes. "Young lady, you have just changed the terms of our agreement in the most spectacular way possible." Sophia bit her lip, suddenly looking worried. "I'm sorry if I broke the rules. I just thought—" No, Richard interrupted gently. "Sometimes rules are meant to be broken, especially by people brave enough to show us a better way." He turned to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I promised $10,000 for 1 note. By my count, Sophia just played—" He paused, making a show of calculating, well, several hundred notes at least. "So I believe our donation tonight just grew significantly." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook and pen. "Sophia Gonzalez," he said formally, "in honor of your extraordinary talent and courage, I am donating $50,000 to our music education fund." The crowd erupted in applause again. Sophia's eyes widened. "And," Richard continued once the noise had died down, "I would like to establish a new scholarship program for exceptional young musicians who lack the resources to develop their talents. The first recipient of this scholarship, which will cover full tuition at the Riverside Music Academy plus private lessons and a suitable instrument, will be Sophia Gonzalez." Maria felt her knees go weak. The Riverside Music Academy, the prestigious school that Mrs. Lee had mentioned, the one with the application fee equivalent to half a month's rent, and private lessons, and an instrument. People were turning to look at her now, noticing the woman in the blue dress who couldn't stop crying. Patricia appeared at her side, placing a supportive hand on her elbow. "Did you know she could play like that?" Patricia whispered. Maria nodded, finding her voice at last. "Yes, but I've never heard her on a real piano before." Up on the stage, Sophia was shaking Richard's hand with endearing formality. He leaned down and said something to her that the microphone didn't catch, and she nodded seriously in response. Then she turned and scanned the crowd until she found Maria. "Mom!" she called, waving excitedly. "Mom, did you hear what Mr. Thornton said?" "I can go to music school." The simplicity and joy in her voice broke through any remaining tension in the room. People smiled, touched by her unfiltered reaction. Then she began to understand. In a room full of successful, polished professionals, no one wanted to be singled out, to stand alone in the spotlight, even for something as simple as pressing a piano key. What if they chose the wrong note? What if they somehow failed at this ridiculously simple task? Better to stay safely anonymous in the crowd. Come now, Richard cajoled. Surely someone wants to help music education with just one finger. A few people chuckled nervously, but still no one moved. Sophia tugged at Maria's sleeve. "Mom," she whispered, "that's so much money. It could help kids like me." Maria started making her way through the crowd, accepting congratulations and kind words from people who had never noticed her before. By the time she reached the stage, Sophia had been surrounded by well-wishers, including several members of the orchestra who were asking her questions about her training. "I don't have any real training," Maria heard her daughter explain. "I just listen and try to copy what I hear. My mom taught me the basics when I was little, but she had to work so much she couldn't continue teaching me." At this, several heads turned toward Maria with new interest. "You play as well?" one of the orchestra members asked. Before Maria could answer, Sophia spoke up proudly. "My mom plays beautifully. That's how I first learned. She taught me when I was 5, and she still plays sometimes on our keyboard at home." Richard Thornton raised an eyebrow at this new information. "It seems musical talent runs in the family," he said with a smile. Maria felt her cheeks flush. "It was a long time ago. Sophia has far surpassed anything I could do." "Mom," Sophia protested, "you're the one who showed me how to make the music sound like it's telling a story. Remember?" Patricia stepped forward. "Perhaps we could convince both of you to play something for us. A duet, maybe?" Maria felt panic rise in her throat. It was one thing for Sophia to perform. She had genuine talent. But Maria hadn't played seriously in years. "And certainly never on an instrument like this in front of people like these. I couldn't possibly," she began. "Please, Mom." Sophia's eyes were bright with excitement. "We could play that song we practice at home sometimes. The Simple One." The Simple One was a beginner's duet Maria had taught Sophia years ago when they still played together regularly. It was nothing compared to the Chopin piece Sophia had just performed, but it was something they both knew by heart. Maria looked around at the expectant faces. These were the same people she cleaned up after every night. The ones who left coffee cups on conference tables and tracked mud across freshly mopped floors. The ones who had walked past her 1,000 times without seeing her. But now they were looking, really looking at her and Sophia. Not as the night janitor and her daughter, but as two people with something valuable to share. "All right," Maria said finally. "One song." Sophia beamed and scooted over on the bench to make room for her mother. As Maria sat down beside her daughter, feeling the smooth wood beneath her and the cool keys under her fingertips, a strange sense of rightness washed over her. This wasn't how she had expected her night to go when she'd put on her blue dress and brought Sophia to the gala. She had imagined they might watch from the sidelines for a while, maybe taste some fancy food, and then she would work her shift while Sophia did homework in the break room. Instead, here they were, center stage, about to play music together on a magnificent grand piano, while the elite of Horizon Technologies watched and listened. "Ready, Mom?" Sophia whispered. Maria took a deep breath and nodded. "Ready, Mija." And together they began to play. The morning after the gala, Maria woke to the sound of Sophia practicing on their old keyboard. The familiar notes of the simple duet they had played together last night floated through their small apartment, bringing back a flood of memories from the extraordinary evening. Maria lay in bed for a moment, wondering if it had all been a dream. Had her 12-year-old daughter really played Chopin on a grand piano in front of hundreds of people? Had the CEO of Horizon Technologies really offered Sophia a full scholarship to the Riverside Music Academy? Had they really received a standing ovation for their mother-daughter duet? Her phone buzzed on the nightstand and Maria reached for it, squinting at the screen. It was a text message from Patricia Winters. "Good morning. Hope you both slept well after your big night. When you have a moment, call me. We need to discuss Sophia's scholarship details. Also, there's something else I'd like to talk to you about." Maria stared at the message, so it hadn't been a dream after all. She got out of bed and walked to the living room where Sophia was still playing, completely absorbed in the music. The morning sunlight streamed through their small window, illuminating her daughter's focused expression. "Good morning, Mija," Maria said softly. Sophia looked up, her face breaking into a radiant smile. "Mom, I was just practicing. Do you think they'll give me a real piano with the scholarship? One like the one at your work?" Maria smiled. "I don't know, but Ms. Winters just texted me. She wants to talk about the scholarship details." Sophia jumped up from the keyboard, her eyes wide with excitement. Can we call her now, please? Let me have some coffee first, Maria laughed. And you need breakfast? We have time. As they ate breakfast together, simple cereal and fruit, Maria marveled at how quickly life could change. Just 2 days ago, they had been discussing how to save enough money for even a few proper piano lessons. Now Sophia was heading to one of the most prestigious music schools in the city, with private lessons and possibly even her own piano. After breakfast, Maria called Patricia while Sophia sat beside her, practically bouncing with anticipation. Maria, good morning. Patricia's warm voice came through the speaker. I hope I didn't wake you with my text. Not at all. Sophia's been up practicing since dawn, Maria replied, smiling at her daughter. That doesn't surprise me one bit, Patricia said. Everyone at the gala is still talking about her performance. And yours too, by the way. That duet was charming. Maria felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. Thank you. It was just a simple piece. Sometimes the simple pieces speak the loudest, Patricia said. Now about Sophia's scholarship. Richard has already been in touch with the director of Riverside Music Academy this morning. They're thrilled to welcome Sophia and want her to come in for a placement assessment next week. It's just a formality, really. They've already seen videos of her playing last night. Videos? Maria asked, surprised. Oh yes, Patricia chuckled. In case you hadn't noticed, practically everyone at the gala was recording Sophia's performance on their phones. It's already making rounds on social media. Richard has asked our PR team to monitor it, given that Sophia is a minor, but the response has been overwhelmingly positive. Sophia's eyes grew wide at this news. People are watching me play on the internet? She whispered. Maria wasn't sure how she felt about that, but before she could respond, Patricia continued. There's something else, Maria. The response to your duet has given Richard an idea. He's wondering if you might consider a change in your role at Horizon. Maria frowned, a knot forming in her stomach. My role? You mean my job? I still need my job, Ms. Winters. The scholarship is wonderful, but we still have rent and bills and… Oh, no, Patricia quickly interrupted. I'm not talking about eliminating your position. Quite the opposite, actually. Richard is wondering if you'd be interested in a daytime position that would make use of your musical background. Maria blinked in confusion. I don't understand. Richard was impressed by what Sophia said about you teaching her to make music tell a story. He's been looking for someone to coordinate our community outreach programs, particularly those involving the arts. After seeing you and Sophia last night, he thinks you might be perfect for it. Maria was speechless. Community outreach? An office job at Horizon? It seemed impossible. But I don't have a degree, she finally managed to say. I never finished community college. What you do have is first-hand experience with the transformative power of music, even with limited resources, Patricia replied. That's something money can't buy and degrees don't always teach. The position would involve coordinating with local schools and community centers, helping to implement the very programs that Richard's donations will fund. Sophia was tugging at Maria's sleeve, her eyes questioning. Maria covered the phone's microphone for a moment. They're offering me a new job, she whispered to her daughter. During the day, working with music programs, Sophia's face lit up. Mom, that's amazing. Maria took a deep breath and uncovered the microphone. It sounds wonderful, Ms. Winters, but I would need to know more details. The salary, the hours, of course, Patricia said. The position would start at $58,000 annually with full benefits. Standard office hours Monday through Friday. Maria nearly dropped the phone. That was more than twice what she currently made. Could you come in Monday morning to discuss it further? Patricia asked. Say 9 a.m. Richard would like to meet with you personally. Yes, Maria said, still stunned. Yes, I can be there. After ending the call, Maria sat in silence for a moment, trying to process everything. Sophia watched her mother's face carefully. Mom, are you okay? Maria looked at her daughter and felt a smile spreading across her face. Yes, mija. I think I am. The weekend passed in a blur of excitement and preparation. On Sunday, they went shopping for new clothes, something Maria hadn't done in years. Sophia needed proper outfits for music school, and Maria needed something appropriate for an office job interview. They couldn't afford much, but they found a few good pieces at a second-hand store that specialized in business attire. Monday morning arrived with a mix of sunshine and spring showers. Maria dressed carefully in her new outfit, a simple navy blue skirt and blazer with a cream-colored blouse. She dropped Sophia at school with a tight hug and a promise to pick her up afterward and tell her everything. As Maria approached the main entrance of Horizon Technologies, she felt strange. For years, she had entered through the service door in the back, arriving when most employees were heading home. Now she was walking through the front doors in the morning sunshine, dressed like any other office worker. The security guard at the front desk, not Ben from the night shift, but a friendly woman named Gina, checked her ID and called upstairs. "Ms. Winters will be right down to get you." "Ms. Gonzalez," Gina said with a smile. Maria waited in the lobby, looking at the grand piano that had changed their lives. It sat quietly in its corner, gleaming in the morning light, looking somehow both regal and approachable. Just like it had that night when Sophia sat down and played her heart out, instead of the single note she'd been asked for. Maria, she turned to see Patricia walking toward her, elegant as always in a tailored pantsuit. "You look wonderful," Patricia said warmly. "Ready to meet with Richard?" Maria nodded, pushing down her nervousness. "As ready as I'll ever be." As they rode the elevator to the executive floor, Patricia filled her in on what to expect. "It's mostly a formality, really. Richard was quite insistent about creating this position for you after seeing you and Sophia together. He said something about recognizing genuine talent when he sees it, and not just musical talent, but the ability to nurture it in others." The elevator doors opened directly into a reception area with a stunning view of the city. A friendly receptionist greeted them and indicated that Mr. Thornton was ready for them. Richard's office was large but not ostentatious. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered an even more impressive view, and bookshelves lined one wall. Maria was surprised to see that among the business books and biographies were several volumes about music education and child development. Richard stood as they entered, coming around his desk to greet Maria with a handshake. "Ms. Gonzalez, thank you for coming in. Please have a seat." The next hour was unlike any job interview Maria had ever experienced. Richard asked her questions not about her cleaning skills or work history, but about how she had taught Sophia to play, what challenges they had faced with limited resources, and what Maria thought would make music education more accessible to children from backgrounds similar to Sophia's. "The truth is," Richard said, leaning back in his chair, "we have plenty of people who understand the theory of community outreach. What we lack is someone who has lived it, who understands what these programs look like from the receiving end." Maria found herself speaking more freely than she expected, sharing ideas she'd had for years but never voiced. Ideas about community instrument sharing programs, about partnerships between professional musicians and local schools, about identifying natural talent early and nurturing it regardless of a family's financial situation. Richard listened intently, occasionally making notes. Patricia sat beside Maria, nodding encouragingly. "I think that's all I need to hear," Richard said finally. "The position is yours if you want it, Maria. You can give your 2 weeks' notice to the cleaning service today, and we'll have your desk ready by the time you finish." Maria felt a wave of emotion rise in her throat. "I don't know what to say, Mr. Thornton. This is more than I ever expected." Richard smiled. "Sometimes the most valuable people in an organization are the ones we overlook. I've walked past you hundreds of times without really seeing you. It took your daughter's, courage to make me really look at the people who keep this company running as..." Maria left the building that morning with a job offer, letter in hand, and plans to return in 2 weeks as the new community arts outreach coordinator. She felt as if she were walking in a dream. The same lobby she had mopped countless times now represented a new beginning. The grand piano that had once been a symbol of what she couldn't provide for Sophia was now a reminder of what was possible when someone was brave enough to play more than the single note expected of them. She couldn't wait to pick up Sophia from school and tell her everything. Her daughter had changed both their lives with a piece of music and the courage to play it when the moment presented itself. As Maria walked to the bus stop, she realized she was humming the Chopin nocturne that Sophia had played at the gala. The melody felt different now, less melancholy, more hopeful, like the story their lives were beginning to tell. 6 months had passed since the night of the Horizon Technologies Spring Gala. The summer had melted into fall, and now the first hints of winter were in the air as Maria walked through the park toward the Riverside Music Academy. Fallen leaves crunched beneath her boots and her breath made small clouds in the crisp afternoon air. She checked her watch. A new one. A gift to herself after her first month in the new job, and quickened her pace slightly. Sophia's recital would begin in 30 minutes, and Maria wanted to be there early to wish her daughter good luck. So much had changed in their lives since that night when Sophia had chosen to play more than one note on the grand piano. Sometimes Maria still found it hard to believe that the same building where she had once mopped floors and emptied trash cans was now where she worked during daylight hours. In an office with her name on the door, Maria Gonzalez, Community Arts Outreach Coordinator. The learning curve had been steep those first few weeks. Maria had never worked in an office before, never used spreadsheets or given presentations or managed a budget. But she had discovered an aptitude for organization that served her well, and her genuine passion for music education had earned her the respect of her colleagues. Richard Thornton had been true to his word. He had not only created the position for Maria, but had given her real authority to shape the company's new community arts initiatives. In the past 6 months, she had helped establish partnerships with 5 local schools, creating after-school music programs for children who might otherwise never touch an instrument. Each time she visited one of these schools and saw a child's face light up while playing their first notes, Maria thought of Sophia and how differently things might have turned out if her daughter hadn't been brave enough to volunteer that night. Maria reached the imposing stone building that housed the Riverside Music Academy. Even after 6 months of dropping Sophia off here several times a week, she still felt a flutter of disbelief when she walked through its ornate front doors. This place, with its practice rooms and performance spaces and world-class instructors, had once seemed as distant and unreachable as the moon. Now Sophia moved through these hallways with growing confidence, soaking up knowledge like a sponge, her natural talent flourishing under proper guidance. The lobby was already filling with parents and family members arriving for the fall recital. Maria nodded and smiled at a few familiar faces, parents of other students she had met during previous events. She no longer felt out of place in these surroundings, no longer worried that someone might question her right to be there. Ms. Gonzalez, Maria turned to see Mrs. Wu, Sophia's primary instructor, approaching with a warm smile. "I was hoping to catch you before the recital," Mrs. Wu said. "Sophia has been working so hard on her piece. I think you'll be very proud." "I'm always proud of her," Maria replied, returning the smile. "How are her nerves today?" Mrs. Wu chuckled. "Better than mine. That daughter of yours has remarkable composure for someone her age. She's in practice room 3 if you'd like to see her before the performance begins." Maria thanked her and made her way down the familiar corridor to the practice rooms. She could hear muffled music coming from behind several doors, last-minute preparations from nervous students. When she reached room 3, she paused, listening. Sophia was playing the piece she had selected for today's recital, Debussy's Clair de Lune. The delicate, dreamlike notes flowed from behind the closed door, played with a sensitivity that made Maria's heart swell. 6 months of proper instruction had refined Sophia's natural talent, adding technical precision to her innate musicality. Maria knocked softly when the piece ended, then opened the door. Sophia sat at the piano, her posture perfect, her hands resting lightly on the keys. She wore a simple dark blue dress, not the Christmas dress from Tia Carmen anymore, but a new one they had purchased specifically for recitals. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, making her look older than her 12 years. "Mom," Sophia's face lit up. "You're early." "I wanted to wish you good luck," Maria said, crossing the room to hug her daughter. "Though from what I just heard, you don't need it." "That was beautiful, Mija." Sophia beamed at the compliment. "Mrs. Wu helped me understand the dynamics better. It's all about the light and shadow in the music," she says. Maria nodded, remembering how she used to try to explain similar concepts to Sophia on their old keyboard, without the vocabulary or training to express what she intuitively understood about music. "Are you nervous?" she asked. Sophia considered the question seriously. "A little, but not like before. I keep reminding myself that I played in front of hundreds of people at the gala, and that was when I barely knew what I was doing." Maria laughed. "You knew what you were doing. You just didn't have the words for it yet." A chime sounded in the hallway, signaling that the recital would begin in 15 minutes. "I should find my seat," Maria said. "Remember to breathe before you start playing." "I will," Sophia promised. "Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Mrs. Wu says I might be ready for the Young Artist competition in the spring. Maria's eyes widened. The Young Artist competition was prestigious, drawing talented young musicians from across the state. Winners received scholarships and performance opportunities that could shape their future careers. That's wonderful, Mija. We'll talk more about it after the recital. As Maria made her way to the auditorium and found her seat, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Patricia Winters sliding into the seat beside her. Patricia, I didn't know you were coming, Maria said, genuinely surprised. Patricia smiled. I wouldn't miss it. Richard wanted to come too, but he's in Tokyo for a business conference. He asked me to record Sophia's performance, though. Maria felt touched by their continued interest in Sophia's progress. What had begun as a spontaneous challenge at a charity gala had evolved into something deeper, a genuine investment in her daughter's future. The lights dimmed, and the recital began. Maria watched as student after student took their turn at the magnificent grand piano on stage. Some played with technical precision but little emotion. Others had feeling but struggled with the more difficult passages. All were applauded warmly by the supportive audience. When Sophia's name was announced, Maria sat up straighter, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Patricia gave her an encouraging smile. Sophia walked onto the stage with quiet confidence, her blue dress a darker shadow against the glossy black piano. She adjusted the bench, took a moment to compose herself, and then began to play. From the first notes, Maria could tell that something special was happening. Sophia had played Claire de Lune beautifully in the practice room, but here, under the spotlight, her performance transcended mere practice. She seemed to find new depths in the music, her interpretation both technically precise and emotionally resonant. Maria found herself holding her breath at certain passages, moved by the beauty her daughter was creating. This wasn't just a student recital piece. This was art. When Sophia finished, there was a moment of perfect silence before the audience burst into applause. Maria was on her feet without realizing she had stood, tears streaming down her face as she clapped. Patricia was standing beside her, looking equally moved. After the recital, as proud parents congratulated their children in the lobby, Mrs. Wu sought out Maria with an unusually serious expression. Ms. Gonzalez, I need to speak with you about Sophia, she said. Can you come to my office tomorrow afternoon? Maria felt a flicker of concern. Is something wrong? Mrs. Wu quickly shook her head. No, quite the opposite. But I believe we need to discuss Sophia's future trajectory. She's progressing far more rapidly than I initially anticipated. Before Maria could ask for more details, Sophia appeared flushed with the success of her performance. Mrs. Wu excused herself, promising to explain everything the next day. Did you see Mr. Peters from the orchestra? Sophia asked excitedly. He came backstage and told me I played with exceptional musicality. That's a good thing, right? Maria laughed, pushing aside her curiosity about Mrs. Wu's cryptic comments. Yes, Mika, that's a very good thing. The next afternoon, Maria left work early to meet with Mrs. Wu. Patricia had been understanding about the schedule change, especially when Maria explained it was about Sophia's music education. Family comes first, Patricia had said. Besides, you've already finished the proposal for the new summer program. Take the time you need. Now sitting in Mrs. Wu's office surrounded by framed music degrees and performance photographs, Maria listened with growing amazement as the instructor outlined a new plan for Sophia's education. Your daughter has what we call accelerated aptitude, Mrs. Wu explained. She's absorbing and applying concepts that typically take students years to master. At this rate, the regular program won't be challenging enough for her. What are you suggesting? Maria asked. An individualized curriculum with additional theory and composition classes, private lessons twice weekly instead of once. And yes, definitely the Young Artist competition in the spring. Mrs. Wu leaned forward. Sophia has the potential for a significant career in music if she chooses to pursue it. The scholarship from Horizon Technologies covers the standard program, but this enhanced track would require additional funding. Maria felt a familiar tightness in her chest. Even with her new job, this sounded expensive. How much additional funding? Mrs. Wu named a figure that made Maria blink. It was manageable with her new salary, but it would mean sacrifices in other areas. I'll need to think about it, Maria said honestly, and discuss it with Sophia. She needs to have a say in how intensively she wants to pursue this. Mrs. Wu nodded approvingly. Of course. But I should mention that there's another option as well. The Academy has a special merit fund for exceptional students in financial need. Given Sophia's remarkable progress, I've already spoken to the board about her case. They've agreed to cover half the additional costs. Maria felt a rush of gratitude. That would make a significant difference. There's something else, Mrs. Wu continued. The Academy has an annual benefit concert where our most promising students perform alongside professional musicians. This year, we're featuring piano duets, students performing with their instructors or other professional pianists. I'd like Sophia to participate. She would love that, Maria said, already imagining how excited Sophia would be. Here's the thing, Fizz Gonzalez. Sophia has specifically asked if she could perform with you. Maria felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. With me, but I'm not a professional. I barely play anymore. According to Sophia, you two used to play together quite beautifully. She mentioned a duet you performed at a charity event. Mrs. Wu raised an eyebrow. That was different, Maria protested. It was a simple piece, nothing like what would be expected at a benefit concert. Mrs. Wu smiled gently. The theme of this year's benefit is music across generations. The piece doesn't need to be technically complex. What matters is the story it tells. And from what Sophia has shared with me, the two of you have quite a story. As Maria walked home that evening, her mind swirled with everything that had happened in the past 6 months, and everything that Mrs. Wu had suggested might happen in the future. Sophia with an individualized curriculum, Sophia in the Young Artist competition, Sophia performing at the benefit concert with her mother. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Maria paused on the bridge over the small river that ran through the city park, watching the light play on the water below. 6 months ago, she had been mopping floors at night, worrying about overdue bills and trying to figure out how to afford even basic piano lessons for her daughter. Now, her biggest concern was whether she could practice enough to play a duet with Sophia at a prestigious benefit concert. Life could change in an instant, Maria realized. Sometimes it just took the courage to play more than one note when the opportunity presented itself.